Hello and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. Hi,
Good
Polly.
morning. Good morning, Alistair. How are you?
Not too bad. The view from the shed is quite bright and sunny this morning. How about yourself?
Yeah, same. Beautiful golden coloured trees outside my window, but it's a wee bit crispy. It's a bit chilly, but it does look pretty from the inside in my woolly jumper with my cup of tea.
Marvellous, marvellous. And do you want to say a bit about what we've been up to? Because it's been another month since our last update.
Yeah, so again, folk will remember that we're down to a monthly webinar Wednesday. So usually the first Wednesday of every month, although the December one, we'll post a bit more information about this soon. We're going to change that to being the second Wednesday of the month because we are busy delivering our Working Together for Change programme, which has just restarted. It'd be good to tell you a wee bit about that. We met for the first time. So this was a group of folk who met. When did they first do this, Alistair? It was before the pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. It got started just before the pandemic, and then it was partly it had just kind of got going, and then it had to stop because the pandemic just made it impossible, really.
Got in the way. So we brought back quite a few folk who started it last time, and a few other folk who are new to come along together, and that's disabled self-advocates, people working for support providers, local authorities, NHS, all those kind of folk coming together to think about self-directed support and how they could make changes in for themselves or for their local communities or the services that they offer. So really exciting. And we had our first in-person sessions just last week, and we were all socially distanced, all taking all the COVID precautions, but it was really nice, wasn't it?
It was really good, and I think it's interesting to let people know, because some people will think about what did that look like, because if they saw maybe any of the photos, they would see that there was it was a reasonable sized group of people. But what we did was we people sat in tables of like a maximum of maybe 6 people, and then that they stuck with those groups throughout the 2 days. So it was kind of much smaller bubbles, and there was lots of other things that we did as part of a bigger group, but we didn't mean that we had to mix physically. So it was good because we got the togetherness, but without the risk, a lot of the risks. So that was super important, and I think it was a really successful first 2 days.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. So. Then what else have we been up to? Something that folk might have seen or might want to catch up on if you've not seen was we had the We Are One Scotland event, called it the Curtain Raiser event. It is part of the European Network in Independent Living, which was 2 webinars which were really, really interesting about tackling institutionalisation, talking about partners from all the way across Europe. I went to the first one, which was brilliant. It had a young man who'd lived in an institution in Moldova for 20 years, and you think he was only 25. And he talked about his experiences there and leaving the institution. It was brilliant. And I know you can watch them on the European Network and Independent Living's YouTube channel. Alistair, did you catch them as well?
I haven't caught up with them yet. No, I'll need to see if I can catch up. I've been playing catch up. I've been doing lots of catching up with folk about a variety of different things, and I think it's been one of these weeks where you just think, blimey. I think probably because I had a week off as well. Still playing catch up on a lot of this stuff. So I think the We Are One was such a fabulous idea, and I think the Citizen Fest and everything, it's all really good stuff.
Yeah. And one of the things you've been busy with has been your Growing Bigger Lives work, hasn't it? Do you want to talk about that a wee bit?
Yeah, so that was something that our Rights and Equalities group, which was about making sure that young people particularly, but people with care experience who also have a learning disability or autism, etc., they can get access to really good opportunities and to exercise, folk get a chance to exercise their rights. And so we tried to think about how we could set up a kind of a virtual network where we could connect to people around about social things around Scotland. And we played around with different names and what it would look like and stuff. And just at the last minute there, this last month, we we changed the name, so it's now going to be Growing Bigger Lives. And so we're working again on the Saturday the 13th, I think it is. We're going to be working on that again. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have a bit of a draft website for people to comment on. So that'll be really useful.
Brilliant.
Another thing. And then we've got the AGM coming up.
We do a couple of dates for Folk Diaries. AGM next week on check my notes, 10th of November at 2 p.m. And we're holding it online because just still finding it tricky to find a room big enough to fit folk in safely and keep everybody well. But that's happening next week, 10th of November at 2 p.m. If you're interested in coming along, everybody's welcome. You're very, very welcome to come along. There's a link on our Facebook page, I think, that's got how to contact, but you just email info@incontrolscotland.org.uk and June will sort you out with a link to come along.
Yeah. And there we are, almost in advance. She can read our minds.
As if by magic. And then the other date for the diaries is this Friday. It's bonfire night, or you can have a night go off with a bang with Stay Up Late Scotland, which is happening online again as well. And it's got some recent recordings from Music All in Paragon with artists from Glasgow and across Scotland as well, which would be really good fun.
Brilliant. Okay, that sounds good. So will we bring on our guests?
Yeah, let's press the magic button.
So let's here's my technical way of bringing on one of my guests. Here we go. And here's the other guest. Here we go. So hi Ian and hi Ashleigh.
Hello.
Hi. So we were hoping to have another couple of guests, but we have hit a technical gremlin. So we have Ian and Ashleigh joining us today to talk about one of my favourite topics, which is about being on boards. And we thought, just it's Trustees Week, what a perfect opportunity to talk about why having people with lived experience on boards is a really important thing. So
yes.
will we do a quick intro for Ian? Ian, do you want to go first? Would you introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Ian Stones, and I set up a learning disability group of Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire after the council here cut it about 2014. So I got it going again about then, and then I came to be a treasurer since that time. Then the COVID-19 came, so it just came to being more board members to stay as what we was since for COVID-19.
You want to say about being on the board of Values and Action Scotland as well?
Oh, okay. Yeah, and obviously I'm on the board of
Bias. It's shortened to Bias. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for that. Ashleigh?
Hi, I'm Ashleigh. I am one of the trustees for In Control Scotland, and I do various other roles as well. And this was my second role as a trustee, which was really good because the first role was a really small charity in East Lothian, helping children. So that was really good to get used to like what you had to do and before going on to sort of bigger things like In Control Scotland and dealing with like more in-depth stuff to do with stuff. So it was a really nice pathway into it.
Excellent. Thank you, Ashleigh. And also, Alistair and myself are also trustees on boards as well. So this is something that we are all really interested in and dead keen to talk about. So Alistair, do you want to say anything about your experience of being on boards?
Yeah, so I've been a trustee with Vias for, I think it's about 10 years now, and I've also been previously a trustee on a small local organisation, and I'm also the sort of fundraiser for the learning disability group that Ian set up as well. So yes, it's a small world in terms of some of those things. Do you want to say a little bit about your board experience as well?
Yeah, so this is my first time being managed by a board as a director, but I have been on quite a few boards in the past. I started off when I moved to a new community. I wanted to get involved and find a way of contributing to the local community, but I didn't really have the time to go and do a big volunteer youth work job or something that would take an awful lot of time. So I chose a wee local charity and got involved from there, and I got the bug. And I've been on a couple of other boards since, and I'm currently on the boards of SCVO, which is the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, and YWCA Scotland, the Young Women's Movement, where I have a bit of lived experience, not current experience of being a young woman, but I used to be a young woman. And as well, I'm involved with a wee social enterprise called Loop Theatre, where I'm on their board too. So yeah, I'm a compulsive trustee. I can't help myself.
Can I help yourself? Brilliant. All right, good. Yeah, so Ian was keen to come in on something. Yeah,
and just to let everyone else know, too, which I did not bring up, I'm actually on NSS DDA board, and ACVO, and a couple more boards. So I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, so that's it. Ian wins. That's it. Right. Okay. First round. Top trumps.
Oh, come on.
I feel as well that once you start, like as you say, you do get kind of a bug for it, because I once I did the thing in East Lothian, I was on the entrance of Scotland, where I learned loads about it, and I just got into like, this is how you change things for people. Like, it may not be a board, no, it may not be a job of that, and then that also gave me the confidence to go on to another board as well, like helping people with sort of more refined, like self-directed support. But if you didn't have the support of the first board, you wouldn't have the confidence to go and apply, because the other two boards I kind of fell into because there's so new people and stuff. But the other board, it was like, oh, I think I might be able to apply for this. But it was knowing the people and building up the confidence that I was able to do that.
That's a really good point. So I guess that comes on to a couple of the points that we're going to cover about how did you get into it, and what made you go for it. So you've sort of said about building up your confidence on smaller stuff, and then do you think it's about either feeling strongly about the organization, or is it about who you know, sort of like you feel confident with people that you think, oh well, I could go on the board because I think I could work alongside these folk? Or what was it for you, Ashleigh?
Well, for me, was the first one. So in control, and Control was the second one. But the first one, it was kind of a bit of a fluke, and I didn't really know what was doing, and it got a bit deep in details and things, and it was good in the sense that I ended up being really challenged, and the charity doesn't exist anymore. And then when I went on to when I did partners in policy making, I had already been on a course with In Control Scotland about 9 years, no, but 9 or 10 years before that, and I kind of thought I knew most of what was gonna be learning, which I didn't because partners is life changing. And then Keith and June kinda approached me to say, oh, would you consider this? And this was kinda key to that course as well, because as I said, I was learning most, and then I had a really good induction. I had really good, like, everybody was so nice and everything, and it just was really rewarding to see people's lives being changed and you being part of that.
That's a really good point, Ashleigh. That was kind of how I was feeling when I joined my very first one. Was I knew I wanted to make a difference, but I didn't quite know how. And actually, being on a board is a way of making a huge difference to a huge number of people, in a way that is a bit different for lots of folk. And it's I think it's a really good experience. So your experience seems quite similar to mine, then, Ashleigh.
Mm.
What about yourself, Ian? How did you get involved in the boards that you're in?
Well, it goes back a long time. Originally, it goes back when I used to live in England, really, because I originally come from England, down in Gloucestershire, and I used to work with people with learning disability and complex learning disability at that. So physically, when I moved up to Aberdeen, for about 6 years, I worked at Ardell House Hotel in Aberdeen. And then after that, I got ill. Then after I got better, after 2 years, I met Alistair. When I went to work at a place called Inspire. Not Inspire, it was in partnership at that time.
That was the old days. Yeah.
That was it.
We're getting your full history here, but so let's think about how did you get on the board of VIAS then?
How did I get on? Physically, Alistair mentioned it was a space on VIAS and asked me if I would like to come on to VIAS, and I said yeah. Yeah. I had all for experience, or I thought I had for experience, till I met up with Alistair and we spoke about it. But it went fairly well, actually. And we did, we went along a couple of times, and then COVID-19 came, and then we had to stop going to the meetings. And because I'm partly sighted, it did make it difficult to do most things on Zoom and whatnot. And this is partly why I've come to Alistair's house today, to make it a bit easier on me.
So that's a good point, isn't it? Because I think there's a couple of points there. There's both Ashleigh and Ian have sort of said about that welcome of people saying, we think you've got something to give, because it can be a bit of a stress. You think, well, you're looking for trustees, but are they looking for, which skills are they looking for? And if somebody says to you, actually, I think you've got something to give, then that's helpful, because different boards operate in different ways, and some are very formal, and some are quite relaxed and inclusive. And I guess you never know until you start. I guess Ashleigh said there about things got deep quite quickly. So say, for example, if an organisation is maybe not doing that well, or if they're not very clear on what they're about, it can be a very different experience to an organisation that's very clear and very thoughtful and very helpful. So you could, if you end up with a bad first experience, you might put you off. Whereas if you have a good first experience, you might keep going. No.
Don't put me off, Alistair, but never mind, that's just how it is. Some people it would, and in any case, just keep on going and getting through it, and doing it in different ways, like easy read booklets, and make it easy read to get the message over, and that's what I've came up with, that idea, to make it easy for people who has got learning disability, and not only with learning disability, with language problems, and obviously different languages, to get your message across,
So
that's how I operate, to get in the message over different ways. There is ways around it, but you just have to do it different,
So that's an interesting thing about inclusion, and I guess it might be a good point to ask everybody's experience about with COVID and going online, about how it has affected how it is ironic though, isn't it, that the two people with lived experience managed to get on fine, and that it's actually the professional barriers of some of the some of the things that we're not allowed to do with organizations. So they put blocks on certain sites, so that make it hard sometimes for professionals to join. I mean, things like, even if in Zoom meetings rather than Teams meetings, a lot of the health and social care partnerships really struggle to attend that. So things that we can do, sometimes the systems don't actually work that well to help that.
And the other thing what we have done is we are now tighten up for things, what you can do and what you can't do on the internet now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting tighter and tighter and difficult more to do things, and especially if you've got a disability or some other problem where you can't see, where you can't make out, where you've got reading problems, it does make difficult more and more. So we need to look at, the board needs to look at what we can do to get over that line. If you know what I mean by a line, so we got to get over that line and not underneath it, So we need to get on top of it and get it on the level,
Making things understandable.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ashleigh, how's it felt for you moving to online board meetings?
Yeah, it's okay. Almost miss that interaction of people and things, but yeah, it's okay. Both of mine have been on Zoom, and actually one of them I've stepped up a bit and done some of the secretary work, which is really handy because if it wasn't online, I would really struggle. But because it's online, I can record it, and then someone can help me to obviously somebody within that board can help me and we can work together for the recording. Whereas if it was in person, it would be harder for me to do that because I couldn't like write everything down or I couldn't like yeah. And I don't know what will happen when if we go back or when we go back or whatever. But yeah, it's been quite a good opportunity for me to increase my skills because like I still want to do change and I still want to do it, but what I was thinking about was like I don't want it to look like I've been on all these things and not done something a wee bit more advanced because it's been since about 2017, I think, or 2018, maybe 2018, not probably 2017 actually, since I started, like on the first one. So working at that way of like, this is something I really want to do, but I need to work out how I can advance it as well.
That maybe leads us on quite nicely to a question that we've had pop through, which is for both Ian and Ashleigh. Ian, maybe start with you first. Do you feel you have the opportunity in your role as trustees to contribute new ideas within your organisations and are able to help implement them?
Yes, I do. And the other thing I meant to mention the last time, I meant if people live on their own and we don't have a sport maker or whatever, it's difficult more because you don't have the help. Yes, I've got Alistair who can help me from time to time when he can. But it does make it difficult when you don't have that help because Alistair is up to his eyeballs doing other stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I find.
Yeah, so if I just can I just maybe suggest that some of the stuff that Ian's already mentioned is the kind of the desire to make things easy read. So sometimes boards, they don't have a lot of time. One of the things that Ian's been a great champion of is simplifying the board reports. So making sure that, because sometimes you can just get a pile of figures and it's like, well, so what does this mean? Does this mean we're doing fine? Does this mean we need to worry about things? Are we on track, or is there?
And it's not only that; it's even for people who's like the government notes will say it's easy read or it's making it simple. It's not simple. So I have had to go away with someone else to make it more simpler to understand what it is, like in the test papers or a other board, to go off and make it easy for people to understand. And it takes hours and days, probably a couple of days to do a big pile,
Yeah, and one of the other things we found is about having sort of like hybrid meetings. So that like sort of like half the boards maybe in Glasgow and then half the boards in Aberdeen. So certainly before COVID, I mean, this is the first time you've been here since COVID
That's
happened.
right.
But what we used to do was there'd be like 4 of us from Aberdeen, and everybody would just come here. So we would go into the online discussion, but equally we would have a tea break halfway through, so we could kind of to have a bit of a debrief and say, see when we talked about that, but did everybody get that, or what? Is there any other questions? And I think that was really important, because sometimes there's a lot of information, and simplifying it and getting a chance to do that in-person stuff meant a bit of both. But we have had,
And I do say it should be starting up again as soon as possible, where half of the board could go down to Glasgow or could meet somewhere else, and I do know that AGM has not been done yet, and it would be good if some of the board members from Aberdeen could go down to Glasgow. Like myself, I would love to go down with Alistair here to go to the board meeting, and we could do it on both. Some of the members could do it online. Some of them could come down or go to the office or wherever it will be done. It would make life easier for different people, you see.
okay, thanks.
We actually had that. The most recent SCVO board meeting I was at had half of the folk on Zoom and one camera pointed at, so it was Zoom and room. So we had some folk in a room who were sitting together, and we were just up on a big screen in front of them, and we could see, I was on Zoom and I could see folk in the room, and it worked quite well actually. And it's like trying to accommodate the best of both worlds for as many folk as possible, isn't it? If Zoom suits you better, then we've learned we can make it work. If you'd much rather be in the real world with people, then we can make that work too. So it's about being flexible, I think.
Perfect.
I've done that a few times, with not with boards as such, but just with other things that I've been involved in, that other people, it might be a bit too busy, and sometimes it's better. Like, for example, having more breakout rooms, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of that question that we just popped back up on the screen, do you think you've had an opportunity, Ashleigh, to contribute new ideas and implement them?
Definitely, yeah, certainly for the first two, and this is one, but when I was quite new, I was like quite enthusiastic about it, and it was working mainly with children with disabilities. So I I had like both two-person centers plans done, so we had a kind of exhibition for that, and I spoke a bit about the plan, and then I was able to go to some of the other meetings as well within that local authority. So that was really encouraging. And I don't know if it was the trustees or it was just in that opportunity. And then in this role, again, there's been loads of stuff to get involved in, when you're gonna like living around there, obviously, but there's been stuff around like European work, which has been really fascinating, getting to talk to like people from different countries about your experience of the directed support and things like that. And yeah, just getting to engage with a lot of people that see that passion. And then the other one, yeah, again, using your experience with self-directed support we had some workshops run in the summer, which I was able to, again, they were online, but I was able to go and help out with that as well. So it was
Brilliant.
really good.
We've got a hello from Citizen Network TV as well there.
Hello.
So people watching us from potentially all over the world. So not just Scotland. So just thinking about that whole idea of that question was about the difference you could make. I guess one of the other questions is how do we make sure that it's not tokenistic and that you get the best chance to be really inclusive, really included. Well, do you want to just say, Ian, what's any thoughts you've got about how to avoid, just paying lip service to inclusion? How to make sure it's real?
Real. So it's difficult. That's a difficult question, and it's just need to do that on Wednesday morning to come up with that with me. Well,
Do you want Ashleigh? Ashleigh, you can go for it.
Go for it.
Well, certainly for this organization, this is in control Scotland. So for me, what they do, it is literally in the name of the organization. It's people being in control of their life. And if you don't, I've been involved for about 4 years now, at least. And I was kind of involved vaguely before that as well. But I've seen it, you need to take a balance of professionals, and then we've got some parents on it, and we've got some people with experience on it, and obviously the managers. And you need all these people around the table as well. Where, and I see it working really well, and that's the same in the other one as well. Whereas where I started on this, it wasn't that. It was just, it didn't have a very good dynamic. It wasn't very well spread out, and I think it really needs to be spread out in order to make it work really effectively.
and again, what I did find actually, if you don't mind me saying something, it cut people off. Some of with the COVID-19, it did cut some people off, like myself, who can't really go online, and you miss out some of the meetings, and you can't really join, and you lose the track of what's going on. And this is what we need. And I found that's what I found. What was the baddest bit about for COVID-19? Where someone like me was partly sighted, or someone who's got a language problem, or can't really keep up with what's going on, like what they used to do before for COVID-19. Like when I used to come to Alistair's house here or in this building here, when we could go onto line and do it with virus meetings or any meetings really, where you could keep up with the track on what was going and what was not going, and where you could put your feedback to any of the meetings. You know, and that is what I found out what was really bugging me, you know. And
So-
in any case, Alistair was not always there where we could do anything, and I was my hair was getting pulled out of my hair, and you can see I've lost a lot of hair because of it.
So that is a good point. I think that Ian's making there is that that there's quite a few things that we can do to make sure that things are inclusive. So we said about maybe things being easy to understand. There's also that thing about things coming out in good time, because one of the things that I would do with Ian when we were having some of the sessions in person is that Ian would come about maybe half an hour before the meeting, and what I would do is we would just go through some of the main points.
45 minutes.
45 minutes, yeah, beforehand.
So give and take.
So that we could take a bit of time to, because sometimes otherwise you're straight in and it's like, was there any points from the last meeting? Here's the agenda, bang, bang, bang. So in order to get meaningful feedback from people, you've got to give people the space to be able to think about it and process the stuff and then act on it as well. So I think a bit like...
And the other thing too, Alistair, I did bring up with virus at one of the board meetings, or at the meetings down in Glasgow before COVID-19, about getting easy read booklet or something made up. I'm still waiting to see that, and I've not seen that. Nothing. I was supposed to get sent up a hard copy to go through it, and I'm still waiting for that for months.
But that's something else that Ian's done as part of the Learning Disability Group. Is he's helped to write an easy read guide to various trustees' roles, and it's available on the Learning Disability Group of Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire's website, and so anybody can download those if you would find those helpful. So that's good.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. I'm sure a lot of people would find that really helpful, Ian. And that was, I think, for some people to even just have a look and see what's actually involved, what's the kind of stuff you need to do when you're being a trustee, having that guidance would be dead helpful for folk.
And it's not only a trustee, it's being the same person and
different roles.
And all roles to being in a meeting like this, to how to set it all up, how it's all done, and what all roles mean.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Well, can I just ask probably one final wee question, because time is marching on, to Ashleigh and Ian, what's a bit of advice you would give to somebody who's thinking about maybe becoming a trustee? Ashleigh, I'll start with you. What advice would you give?
You need to think about the organization, and you need to think about your knowledge and what you think you can contribute. Because I remember when I was asked onto the one, and people like, and you people, and stuff, and all that kind of thing. But like, I was looking at somebody else who was on the course with me, and I was like, why are you not asking her? Like, she's so much more skilled than I am. But it was identifying that the most rewarding thing is, okay, you can apply for boards and get onto them, and that is what I've done from the most recent role. But the other two, the really rewarding thing is people see something in you and they're like, I need that to be part of the organization. And that to me is so special because like you can spend so much time applying for jobs, meeting people and not getting anywhere at all. But when someone approaches you and says, "We need you," you need to be a part. You need to be a part of it. That's something that you don't get, or which is, you don't get that praise.
So that's brilliant advice for directors or other board members out there. If you see talent, grab it, because Ashleigh's a great talent, and that wee comment that has just come up as well. You're a great asset to Rent Control Scotland Board, Ashleigh. You're fab.
So Ian, any suggestion for any advice you would give to anybody thinking of applying to be on the board?
Like, first of all, I would say to anybody, being honest, is to come along to the board meetings or any meetings of the group and get to know what it's all about. And I would say just take your time. And if you like it, you've got to keep on coming. And if you do stay, that's only a way you would get onto a board or you would be picked. But if you just don't come at all and you only come every so often, I would say forget it, because you just would not be picked or you would not be classed as reliable. That's what I would say.
I think that's really a good point, isn't it? To get to know what the organisation's about and see whether or not you feel comfortable with what they're asking you to do. That's brilliant stuff from both.
Absolutely. I was going to say that's one of the biggest top tips I've ever been given for interviewing, is that if you're being interviewed, you're also interviewing the people that you might work for. You need to find out if they're a good fit for you.
That's why I can say that is how I can come out with it, is because I've done this for a long time. Sorry.
That's good. Brilliant. Oh, well, thanks everybody for coming and adding all your thoughts and stuff. And it's been a really interesting Trustees Week discussion. Any final thoughts, Pauline, before we finish up?
No, just a huge thanks to Ashleigh and to Ian, and we look forward to seeing more inclusive boards across Scotland and charities and social enterprises in Scotland and beyond. If you're interested in becoming a trustee, then have a wee look. We'll share those resources that Ian's created. We maybe pop them in the link on this video on Facebook. We could stick them in there once we find them, so folk have got access to them. But yeah, just massive thank you, and a reminder, if you want to come along to our AGM next week, then the email address to sign up and get in contact to get the link for it is earlier on in the chat for this video. And just get involved. You're all welcome.
Brilliant. We'll see you all next time. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.